When people are setting up their estate plan or preparing to set up their estate plan, they will be considering what the effects their money will have on their beneficiaries. Often, people will want to have some form of charitable distribution so that they are able to promote charitable causes that they already had while they were living, so that they can avoid giving more money to the government through estate taxes, or lastly, so that the beneficiaries themselves are not the only people who are receiving the benefit of the estate assets as a whole. One of the best options for people who want to give some portion of their estate to charity is what we call a donor-advised fund, or a DAF. DAFs are often called a family foundation, where individual donors will be able to give some portion of their estate to a charitable cause without necessarily needing to manage the charitable cause personally. DAFs are also often used when a given person does not have any beneficiaries who they want to receive the assets in their estate. They may have children, but they don't speak to them, or they may have no children whatsoever, and therefore, when they are gone, they want to designate the specific charitable causes they want to promote even after they're not here. A donor-advised fund can be made at many different times in your life, and most of it depends on whether you have charitable intent that you're wanting to promote while you are alive, or whether you have charitable intent that you want to take over after you are gone. Both of these options result in a slightly different timing in regards to when you set up a DAF. Often, people will think that it is in their best interest to list charities on their will or on their trust as beneficiaries only effective when they die, because they want the ability to change those beneficiaries while they're alive. However, if you have a DAF, you have the ability to change what those charities are and the different charitable missions you want to fund without needing to amend a will or trust, because the DAF documents with the provider and with the sponsor are much easier to update over time, thus making a DAF not just more flexible with regards to updates, but more cost-effective with regards to updates. That being said, one of the benefits of creating a DAF while you are still alive is because you get the tax deduction while you're alive. Is it better to have the tax deduction after you're gone and can't use it, or while you're still here? Most people find that answer rather intuitive. A DAF allows a donor to be more flexible in regards to the timing of their charitable donations. The donor themselves will give money to their DAF and take the charitable deductions on their tax return, and then the DAF holds on to that money until the DAF gives that money through a variety of means to the actual charitable cause that has boots on the ground in some form or fashion. One unique method of using a donor-advised fund to its fullest advantage is by listing it as the beneficiary of an IRA or other retirement account. With the exception of a Roth IRA where the taxes have already been paid when contributions are made, most IRAs and retirement accounts are waiting to pay the taxes until the money is taken out of the IRA or retirement account. People will traditionally think that anything left in a retirement account ought to have the beneficiary as their children and be distributed as such. However, while a person would have to take the money out of the IRA and pay the taxes as they do, a charitable organization such as a DAF, when they are donated, does not have to pay any taxes because the taxes are deducted for the charitable cause to 0%. As such, it is a very useful vehicle to donate any remaining IRA funds to a charitable organization. This allows for other funds that would more readily be accessible to children and other beneficiaries going to the children and other beneficiaries in a more tax-efficient manner, and having IRAs and other tax-inefficient methods of inheriting going to the charitable organizations where they don't have the tax penalty that a person would. Now that we've discussed some of the benefits of setting up a DAF, now we're going to discuss what it takes to choose the right one. Anytime someone is wanting to create a donor-advised fund, they first need to seek out the specific charitable foundation that they want to work with to hold their donor-advised fund. I often use the analogy of a bank account. I myself do not run a bank, nor do I have the regulatory and governmental licensure and standing to do so. As such, if I need a bank account, I go to a bank and set up an account with them. Similarly, if I'm looking to set up a donor advised fund and have some form of charitable foundation that I'm promoting, I don't want to deal with the setup and regulation issues revolving around creating my own charitable entity. I will go to an existing charitable foundation that has the ability to make those charitable regulations and be in compliance with the government and allow them to deal with the compliance while I just deal with my one DAF account that helps promote the charitable causes that I want to promote. As such, it is very important to figure out when you are creating a donor advised fund who you want the providing foundation or sponsoring foundation to be. There are three types of donor advised fund providers or sponsors that you can pick from. The most well known and arguably most common type of DAF provider on the market is financial institutions. Schwab, Fidelity, Vanguard, all of these financial institutions will have a charitable arm that they can then promote charitable causes through DAF sponsorship. One of the concerns with having a financial service provider as the DAF sponsor is that they most often limit their charitable donations to either already liquid assets or assets that can easily be exchanged for liquid assets. They almost always require that the liquid assets are held on their back end financial service. If you have a DAF that is sponsored by the charitable arm of a financial service, we're going to call it Service A. This service provider will want all of the assets that are under management of the DAF to be held in accounts at service provider A. Therefore, the financial institution will have back-end abilities to get some portion of the charitable funds and front-end charges by managing the DAF. One of the other limitations that a financial service provider as the DAF sponsor often have is very few, if any, allow for the family of the donor to continue advising when the donor has passed away. Many people think they have a multi-generational DAF, but they have their DAF at a financial company that will not allow any of the donor's children to continue advising as the family of the original donor. As such, while financial companies are perhaps the most common and most well-known DAF sponsors, they are often not what people are actually looking for when they're wanting to set up a DAF, because of the limitations that they may not be aware of that type of DAF sponsor has in place. The second most common form of DAF provider or DAF sponsor is an operating charity, which is usually either done through a church or through a mission-based fund. Either of these have some form of geographic limitation or mission-based limitation that specifies any DAFs with this organization are going to focus the charitable funds in this specific area. In the category of the geographic location or mission-based foundations, perhaps the most common type is a church foundation. Many churches will have some form of geographic location that they focus their charitable efforts on. As such, many people who have charitable intent, who are also church-going individuals themselves, will give to their church's specific foundation, thus promoting not just charitable causes in a nebulous fashion, but specifically the people that they worshiped with in their own community and at their own church service. These mission-based funds can be immensely useful if the charitable intent that you have is aligned with their mission-based or geographic-based fund. It is very useful for that purpose. However, often people have charitable intent that branches between multiple geographic locations, between multiple charitable missions, and often between multiple countries, because they won't just be interested in one thing, they will be interested in many related things. As such, the geographically located or mission-based DAF sponsors have some limitations that people may not be aware of when they're wanting to choose their DAF sponsor. The third type of DAF sponsor that is arguably least well known but most flexible is what we like to call an independent sponsor. They're independent from any operating charity themselves, and independent from any financial institution specifically. This allows such independent sponsors to have much more flexibility with regards to the donor's wishes. There are not that many independent donor advised fund sponsors. However, the one that we have worked with the most and found to be most reliable and trustworthy is one by the name of Legacy Global Foundation. Legacy is flexible enough to work with any of the financial institutions that the donor already has in place. You don't have to convert into a new bank. You don't have to go to a new financial advisor. The things that you have in place, Legacy is able to work with. Liquid assets are not a requirement for Legacy's system. There have been many physical and real assets that have been given to charity, and they know how to deal with those irregular charitable donations. As assets are gifted into a DAF, the fair market value is what is used to determine the relevant charitable deduction on a given tax return. An example of such a charitable donation would be the donor that had an elephant in Thailand that was given to Legacy as part of a charitable distribution. There are many other examples, but the ability to accept illiquid charitable donations is one that many donor advised fund sponsors don't know how to handle or don't want to handle because it increases the amount of complexity on the charitable side. One of the other tricks and tools of the trade that Legacy has done over the years for a donor who is alive and funding their donor advised fund during their life is the ability to make contributions to their church for the purpose of paying their tithing. This has many benefits as the church will be able to use those charitable funds to promote their charitable efforts, and the donor does not necessarily have to be the one listed on the check given to their church. This leads into one of the other reasons why a DAF is often a better charitable vehicle than things such as creating a private foundation. Because in a private foundation, because you are the one who's operating the charity, you are on the governing documents and you are known as a matter of public record. On a DAF, the sponsoring organization is a matter of public record, and they are known in regards to giving the funds to the charitable organization who's going to use such charitable funds, but the donors themselves are not public record. This adds a layer of privacy for people who want to make charitable distributions but don't necessarily want to be on the phone with their church leaders anytime the church wants more charitable distributions for a particular project that they are working on and need additional funds for. One of the other benefits of working with Legacy Global Foundation is the ability for multi-generational donor advisory privileges. This allows a donor who is given money to their DAF to advise on that DAF's charitable intent for their lifetime, and when they are gone, whoever their successors are, usually the children, can take up that place and say, here are more charitable things we want to promote and want to do moving forward. These are the three biggest reasons why we like working with Legacy Global Foundation. That being said, we have plenty of clients who have other types of DAF sponsors, and it works for specific clients in specific circumstances. We are willing to work with whichever DAF provider you have found is in your best interest and most aligns with your goals in regards to your charitable intent. DAFs have the ability to fund many charitable missions and do a lot of charitable work, and a lot of the flexibility depends on who your DAF sponsor is and what the donor's wishes are. Donor advised funds are only one form of charitable vehicle. However, they are not the only charitable vehicle in existence. And depending on your circumstances and the particulars of your charitable intent, you may be looking for a DAF or you may be looking for any of the other many types of charitable vehicles. It is always prudent to consult with a professional advisor who has some charitable knowledge in regards to which charitable vehicle will best accomplish your goals in your circumstances. Our firm is taking on new clients. If you want to work with us, the best way to get on our waitlist is to click the link below. We look forward to hearing from you and would be happy to answer your questions in regards to what charitable vehicles are right in your circumstances. We welcome your thoughts. In order to help us improve future videos, please leave your comments below. If you want to learn more about how the law can be used to protect your family and wealth, subscribe to our channel and visit our website to learn more.